Um, I wasn't on much last week, and I had I. It's a long story. Go watch the Diablo stream. It ain't very long. I talked about it in there. Uh, I wasn't feeling that good, and then I had one day where I was feeling like streaming, and I'm not entirely sure what happened, but I had to base. I couldn't get. At first, I couldn't get the streaming thing to launch and get me on Twitter. That was the first thing that was giving me problems. And then I had trouble. I couldn't get Minecraft to launch. I couldn't get Diablo to launch. I don't remember if I reinstalled Minecraft, but I did reinstall Diablo, and that took pretty much all day. I got on to play, but I didn't want to stream while it was downloading, and it literally like 7, 8, 9 o'clock when I was getting ready to go to bed. Well, actually before that, it was still downloading. So I just and then the next day, day after, I really didn't feel like streaming again. So it is what it is. I got a couple things done. I just want to do the call to action. Get a hold of everybody you vote for if you don't mind, and ask them to legalize assisted suicide. Uh, they're actually starting to do something, and I doubt if I had that much to do with it. But if I did, hey, I'll take, I'll feel good about it. I didn't expect anything to happen for me, but if it actually helped out with the kids getting killed in school, I'm thinking that's a good thing. I can be happy with that. Um, I basically leveled this. I built this, and there I'm gonna call it a glitch. I am gonna literally call it a glitch. They just updated today, so maybe it's better. But I had this all packed with radishes. I got like an extra stack or two of seeds. And then I put this guy in here, and he did not have any other thing. It's not like he was trying to plant like carrots or wheat or potatoes in here. Well, after a while, he just got to where he wasn't having any radishes show up. And I'm going to call that a glitch. So I basically parked him in a boat, and I've been farming this myself. I'm getting ready now, especially since there's an update. I'm getting ready. I basically want an entire row of seeds before I'm going to put him back to work. And if that don't work, I'm going to have to go off radishes to carrots, something where they can't fuck with it. And the potatoes, they can maybe fill up on bad potatoes. Um, Because at one point I was throwing him seeds and he wouldn't pick them up. Now he picks up the seeds, but when I threw him some, well, I'm calling them radishes. I guess they're beets. When I threw him some of those, he wouldn't pick those up now. So now he's maybe full of seeds. I don't know. I literally don't know. And they need to fix that. And then I'm actually getting golems to spawn now. But I got these guys. I'm starting to work on my villagers, and I kind of started terraforming this up here. And I'm gonna put a potato guy in here. I'm gonna start farming potatoes. This is a working project. I just want it lit up. But I got that. I figured out where the lights need to go. I'm gonna be doing that 5x5. Look up a guy named, I don't know if he's still making videos, but look up a guy named Andy is Yoda. I really like his 5x5 building system. It helps me organize my builds. This is the original, and I took down one building to make room for the villagers. And I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do here. I got fences along the wall, down the road. I got to get it to where I can buy or mine glowstone, because I want to put those the redstone. I want to take the glowstone and turn them into redstone lamps or whatever. And I want to put those here. I want to have like 2 or 3 of these fence posts with a light on it and a red little sunlight thing, so that when it gets dark, these will light up. And then I'm probably gonna put maybe not over here, but right in here I'm going to put some, at least this is the plan. I'm going to put some of the bamboo on this side of the fence. So I'll have bamboo here. I'm probably going to move the road. That was just a temporary thing. I'm thinking I'll put the road in a little further this way and have it go down here and then kick over. I might even move those stairs to line up with this and then have that go all the way. I still don't know for sure what I'm gonna do. I think this is gonna get moved, and I want like a permanent home for some of my villagers here. Like I'm thinking maybe the cartographers. If not, the cartographers are going to go down here. Now this guy here, I can trade with him. This guy will do beets, and I've got it set up so I can, because I'm getting to where I'm going to need this pretty soon. So I'm getting it to where as I throw seeds and stuff in here, it will make, and I want to have one on each of these so I can, when I get vegetables, I can trade with these guys. Might not use it that much, but I want them here. I'm starting to get my 5x5 guidelines in here. I'm getting, I'm working on it, but I'm getting a limited number of pumpkins right now, and I'm going to start to light these up, and then I'll either use a shears or I was leveling up a guy. That's how I got these. I didn't make them. I bought them. But as soon as I either get them with the shears or as soon as I get a Silk Touch tool, I will start to fill these in with the leaf blocks to kind of cover them up a little bit at least. And this one here, I got this so I can get some emeralds, trading with the guys. I got an emerald farm. I'm thinking about putting like a horse thing in here, maybe the sheep, beef, and pig in here. I want to make something big. And same thing, like I might do horses on one side and I might do the food livestock on the other. But I want to do that. But I started lighting that up. I filled it in. So whatever I want to do, it's a nice level terrain for horses, whatever. I got more work to do. And I got to spend, I'll talk while I'm waiting. I finally got, because I was dicking around with this. I got this sealed up, but the zombies just were not getting it done. I have to haul them over and now. The way these guys like to go after monsters, I thought for sure they would run and jump down there to get them. No, I got to work on something else, but this is like a temporary thing. But like right now, I found out that the zombies were not doing what I wanted. It was because I needed the iron. And I played in a game where the guys would kill the golems. Good group. I don't see them that much anymore, but they would kill the golems. They would kill the villagers. I'm suffocating them with blocks. They're just terrible accidents that I will not hesitate to recreate when I need to. But it was just taking forever to kill these guys. And so I finally, after I got a few things done, and I was doing it more to help myself out because they weren't dropping that much armor too. And I want the armor. I've got some leather, but I'm starting to get some gold armor now too. I need at least one piece of good gold armor for when I eventually go into the nether. And I went around and I got both villager outposts marked on the map. I got the I got both villager out or not pillager outposts, not villager. I got two of the pillager outposts marked on the map. I found something. It's basically like I think one or two vegetable farms and a wall, but it's technically there we go. These guys don't stay in there. The baby ones can come out. See, this is a glitch too. These guys, they're standing there getting attacked by a baby zombie, and they're not doing a thing to him. Not a thing. I don't care because I want the iron. But, and I'm not seeing as many mobs. I still don't like to go dark, but there were a few times where it took me a minute to get to the bed. Yeah, they should be stomping his fucking ass right now. And, well, anyway, so we got that, but it will the baby ones, they don't really do too much, but I got a thing in here which it's turning them into drowned. So I am getting iron. I'm getting copper. I'm getting nautilus shells. Oh, that fucking leather armor. I'm getting much better, and I gotta recommend this if you're doing this. If you want the armor, and I got it set up so I can smelt the stuff down here. But if you want the armor either to wear early in the game, or if you want the armor to melt down and get yourself a little bit of gold, a little bit of iron as you can. And the other thing is I can trade the zombie meat with the one villager I got up there, so that's useful too. And if you want that, I highly recommend that you turn it into a drowned farm. And what I did, let's see if I can. Okay, these guys get stuck here. They can't come out. And I tried pushing them, but you can't push them through a slab. I don't know why. It didn't damage it. It should have either damaged them or it should have popped them out. But what I did right now, on Bedrock, the extended piston no longer leaks water. I think at one time it did. But what I do is I have a torch on there that keeps this extended. And then when I go in and push that button, it retracts this, and then everything comes out. But pretty much everything that pops off these guys when they turn into drowned, it comes out here and it gets captured. So we are good there. And I got a tree farm going here. So I got jungle, Arcadia, and oak. I don't have anything else here. And I've been using a little bit of everything. Like I'm using the Arcadia for the stairs. I actually have a path, if I didn't screw up counting, which likely happened. But I have a path that goes to my other base. And I got most of it, not all of it. And I think what I'm going to do is in this area, I'm just going to turn it into wheat. Like I'll make wheat, and then row of this. Wheat, row of this. But I'm going to turn this into a wheat area as I get it lit up. Just, hey, it is what it is. See, and maybe it'll look good, maybe it won't. But on that Anarchy server, the oldest Anarchy server on Minecraft, 2B2T, they had the Valley of Wheat, and I'm maybe doing a little bit of an homage to them. And then this brings us up to the next call to action, and it'll get into the discussion on UAPs and UFOs. There are two amendments that are likely coming out. One of them I've heard is going to get a vote. Whether it'll pass or not, may depend on you. It just may. But for the defense authorization bill, it's the yearly thing they got to do to fund our military. Chuck Schumer, the majority leader of the Senate, has a bill which will And I want you to remember what I'm telling you here on this amendment because it goes into what some I'm going to talk about. Um, any non human stuff that has been taken inside the U.S., uh, whether they picked it up, whether the military picked it up and gave it to them, which is what is suspected. One guy basically said that he thinks the reason why they've been keeping this secret is in one case, in one area, the government has given recovered maybe bodies and definitely technology is the theory to these corporations, and they have been. And there was a guy, and I don't know if he's full of shit or not. I really don't. But he was talking about how there are certain developments that can be traced back to Roswell. They can just be the technology. Like there was something that it sounds like the stuff that Roswell was reported as finding. The people there, the tinfoil that maintained a shape, but you could wad it up, and then as soon as you released it, it would go back to its original shape. And then there was stuff that they found that they could not cut through it. And some of the stuff, and again, I'm not getting into what, that, but it was stuff that was described back in the 50s as having been found at Roswell, New Mexico for the alien craft. And there's patents on it now. And the guy said if you actually dig, and he goes, it takes some work. But it takes some work, but he said, and again, he could be full of shit. I really don't know. But he said you can trace that back to Roswell. He just said there's a way to do it. This is what's pissing me off. I had 11 of these. And I lost 2 or 3 of them. I got one more. Now I got 9, but maybe I miscounted. I don't know, but it just seemed like I lost another one. And I've had it where I've gone in there, and it's not anywhere up there, but I wander around in the water, and next thing you know, it's not getting washed into this. I might have to 2.0 this later. But yeah, I'm actually getting a fair amount of iron now. Some of it drops from the zombies. The drown dropped the copper, but they've been, like when these guys come out, they have been killing these zombies really good. Well, anyways, that's what his would do. His would basically take any of that stuff that is non-human. Bodies, technologies, craft, anything. And it would be seized. It would be, they would be forced to immediately account for it, like with an outline form. They've got 6 months to fully brief the Congress or somebody on it. And then the next step is it's all to be turned over. That's very important. Christian Gillibrand, and she's the committee chair of a subcommittee. And I heard at least once where it was being credited to the committee of the main committee group, not the subcommittee. But my understanding is her and Mark Rubio in that subcommittee are the ones that mentored this. But it sounds like somebody's being given credit. Maybe she didn't want it. I don't know. But she's the one that I originally heard was behind it, her and Rubio. And that one there's another one that will be, again, it's not everything we want. It's maybe not enough, but it's a hell of a lot better than what we got now. She wants disclosure. So what I need you to do is, Chuck Schumer's got a UFO amendment for the defense authorization bill. Kristen Gillibrand and Rubio, and apparently her boss on the main committee, uh, have a amendment that would go in the intelligence bill. I don't think it'll do you the good to write anybody outside of Washington. You could maybe write cabinet secretaries. You could write the president. You could write your congressman or congressperson, and ask them to make sure they vote on that when it comes up. I haven't heard for sure if Kristen Gillibrand's is, but I've heard that the one Schumer's doing is pretty good. Maybe it's not everything, but right now at this point, I firmly believe the UFO community, or really anybody that just wants accountability, should take a part of a loaf rather than nothing. And so that brings me to my next part. There's this guy called Dr. Greer. He was an emergency room doctor, and he was an emergency room doctor, and he got into the UFO. And there's something about him, and there's another guy called Gary Nolan. And again, now Gary Nolan, I can't put my finger on a fault with him. When you look at his resume, when people talk about like his schooling and whatnot, it looks good. I can't shit on that. And when you listen to the guy, in my opinion, and you're welcome to your own, but when I listen to the guy, it sounds good. It sounds reasonable. It sounds well done. There is something about that guy that just doesn't seem right. And and again, I have no way of knowing. It might just be a personality thing. I could just be dead wrong. I could absolutely be dead wrong. But that guy there seems to me exactly like if you were working for big business or if you were working for the government and they do this. Michael Moore, he did one of his books. I think it was the one on 9/11 or whatever. But he did one of his documentaries. And he basically showed you where the law enforcement had put somebody undercover in a book reading club to spy on these people because they thought they were a security threat. And if you watch it, it seems pretty fucking ridiculous, but they had their little thing they had to do. They thought these guys might be a risk. Well, and this is what I'm getting at. Like, if you were in the government or if you're somebody in big business and you wanted somebody to talk the talk, walk the walk, and get inside to spy on these UFO groups, I think there's a chance that might be him. I really don't know. I'm not, like I said, I could be, this is just a gut feeling. Now you take Mick West. He's another one. I firmly, now this one here, I don't suspect, I firmly believe, at least I hope, I firmly believe that he's on the payroll of somebody that does not want the truth to get out. Because some of the work he's done is just lazy. Like, he did one where he, and I kind of went into this and all, but he did one on the Solway Firth photos. And, it just, you didn't even have to do a whole lot of work to fucking shoot holes in his theory. And he's done it on other occasions where there were like these they said they were, the people that were there, not looking through a camera, but who were there witnessing it, said that they were like pyramid shaped craft. Well, they showed up as pyramids in the recording. Well, he made some comment that it was some trick of the aperture on the, because he said some of them cameras have a triangle shaped aperture, and if the thing is not in focus, that they will blur out. And here's the thing. Eyewitnesses, again, you got to throw out the eyewitness. The eyewitnesses kind of shit on that. But the thing is, when you watch it, that triangle should be more or less perfect when it's in the center. And as that thing moves around to the edge of the photograph or the film, it should distort because this isn't some magical thing to just poof turns it into a triangle. It's an optical effect. And as it goes around in the picture, it should be located different on that aperture, and it didn't. It remained same the whole time. But this is another. Well, I don't want to get into that, anyways. But with Mick West, I can find fault in a lot of what he does. This Dr. Greer, I can personally find fault in a lot of his behavior. Okay, but with this Gary Nolan guy, I really don't know him. He's been around longer than I've been aware of him. I'm going to be completely honest. Because I didn't start getting back into this until a couple years after they leaked it on CNN. I was working then. And when I first heard it, my initial thought was, okay, what did Trump do now? He's wagging the dog. He fucked something up. And so now he's waving UFOs in front. And then about a year or two later, when I wasn't able to work anymore because I got sick, I had the time, so I started looking into it. I'm like, holy shit, this sounds like, I'm just like literally like, okay, I was wrong about that. This looks like there might be something to it. I initially just figured, yeah, he fucked something up and he's doing this to get away from it. And oh, excuse me. And but this guy here, I just can't. I can't sit there and point to anything that I think you should have a problem with, but there's something about him that just seems off. That's all I'm gonna say. And oh, there's nothing in there. Okay. And but this Dr. Greer, I've had a problem with him. Again, I would put him, and again, I could be wrong. You go make up your own mind, because I could absolutely be wrong. He's Mick West, I think, would probably be in the same category. These are two people that are probably more educated than me. I don't know if it's doing them any good, but they're probably more educated than me. And I'm not gonna shit on them for that. I'm not gonna, oh, they're some liberal East Coast, fucking British dude or what. I'm just not. But with Dr. Greer, I've seen him off and on, and there was something Lou Elizondo, and I was already there. I couldn't explain it like Lou Elizondo did, but Lou Elizondo made the comment that when you run into these people where it's, I'm the only one who knows what's going on, don't believe anybody else, this, because he goes, we're dealing with stuff that I'm not sure anybody really understands it. I'm not sure anybody, like he was asked about Skinwalker Ranch, and he said, I really don't want to weigh in too much on that, because he goes, I really don't know that much about it. But he said, I will say this. He goes, the people that are studying what's going on at the ranch, he goes, I'm not sure they're the smartest side of the equation. That was his comment. And the only thing I'm going to say about that is there's a book. I basically don't want to get too far because I don't know what time it is. There's a book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it's a trilogy of books that's like 5 books long. The guy who wrote it, he wrote, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and then I can't remember what I think the second one was called Life, the Universe, and Everything, and then the third one I think was called So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. And And the second book became the sequel. The third book became the trilogy. And then he's got a sense of humor. I think he's got a very good sense of humor. When the fourth book came out, he got them to put on the cover the fourth book in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy. And then you got the fifth book in the trilogy. It's you have to understand him. This was his sense of humor. It's just the way he was wired, and I found it funny. Well, there's a thing in there where you find out, and this is all, I'm not saying this is real. I'm not trying to, but it's the story. And if you haven't read it, this is one. There is a BBC radio broadcast you may be able to listen to for free on the internet. I'm not advocate. I don't know. You might be able to find somewhere that actually has it for free legally for you to listen to, because this thing came out in like the 80s or something like that. It's not very good, but there is a BBC 6-part TV show that they made on it. That was made back in the 80s. It's really, the special effects are just absolutely shit on it. They really are. But what happened was, in there you find out that the Earth, and again, I'm not saying this is real. It's a story, but it's relevant to the thing I am trying to talk about here. You found out that there was a supercomputer. They built a supercomputer. I think it was the size of a planet, called Deep Thought, and they asked him for the ultimate answer of life, the universe, and everything. And he worked on it for like generations. Like the people that set him on this, it was their grandchildren or great grandchildren. It was like a 10,000, 100,000 years later where this thing was answering it. And it came up with the answer of 42 as the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. And they're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. And he goes, well, it doesn't make sense to you because you never told me what the question was. And they're like, well, yeah, it's the ultimate question. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, and once you know what that is, you'll understand the answer. So then he built an even bigger computer that would get them the question to the ultimate answer of life, the universe, and everything. And it was the Earth. It was a computer. It was a computing machine so big that life forms would be part of its matrix and whatnot. And there were people that didn't want to know. And the thing is, like nowadays, you've got this. This could be a thing that's related to the UFO thing, because I heard one discussion on it where they were saying that you might have religious nuts just flip out. Like if they find out that God isn't real, which I think is entirely possible, or God is not what you think it is. Maybe the God in the Bible is real. Because I've heard this said. I was reading a book called Misquoting Jesus. I think that was the one. And somewhere in there they mentioned that what was I gonna do? I'll just put these. I was gonna buy something with them, and I don't remember what it is. And well, anyways, get back to this. Oh yeah, there's religious people that if they found out that religion wasn't what they've believed their whole lives, they might commit suicide, they might become alcoholics, etc., etc. I mean, it could be bad. And I've heard that said that, if the truth came out, there's some that speculate that we may be an agricultural experiment of an ancient race. And the other thing is, uh, the because that one they speculated, somebody just took an honest look at the Old Testament and the New Testament, and the thing they stated was when you read the Old Testament, it's like God is bipolar. Because in the Old Testament, this is the guy telling people to kill his son. He needs his son to be a human sacrifice in order for him to forgive. You had that one where for somebody to learn a lesson, they had to be willing to cut their kid in half. Just some sick shit, and it was all attributed to religion. And then when you get into the New Testament, oh, God is about love and peace and forgiveness, and I don't know. Except for the human sacrifice of his son, it really came off like, Jesus was much more benevolent and decent than God was. And so I don't know. I literally don't know. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, anyway, so in this story, you had someone who that didn't want the answer to life, the ultimate question of life. So that's when they destroyed the earth. You find that out later in the books. That happened in the first book, but you found out why. They didn't want that answer coming out. It was somebody that had like a religious or a political bent, and they didn't want that knowledge coming out. They wanted people to be stupid rather than knowledgeable, which is a fairly normal trait for some of your religions. And what you found out was the beings that commission the earth to build, they're not from our dimension. They're from another. They're a race of hyper intelligent pan-dimensional beings, and they wanted to monitor their experiment on the earth. And what they did was, and the one guy finds out, that they're supposedly I gotta make sure I got the right one here. Hang on. Yeah, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure I got these right. 3 and 4. Okay. And what they were is, on Earth, they presented themselves as laboratory mice. And when Arthur Dent found out that this race of super intelligent pan-dimensional beings he goes, no, they're not. He goes, they basically, they were in labs. We did experiments on them. And then the person who was explaining it says, yeah, and he goes, and you learned a lot from your experiments. And it kind of clicked, and he had to admit that, well, he didn't believe it. It did at least make sense if it was true. Because they had done all these experiments on them. And, 1, 2. And when Lou Elizondo said that about Skinwalker Ranch, that's all I could think of was, his comment of this race of hyper-intelligent pan-dimensional beings. because again, he was saying that, yeah, they're out there doing all these experiments, and he goes, I'm not entirely sure they're the smartest side of the equation. So, they might be dealing with, hyper intelligent, I'm kind of half joking here, but you might be dealing with a race of hyper intelligent pan-dimensional beings that are experimenting, and maybe they're, I kind of wonder, because here's the thing. If you believe the stories, and I believe at least some of it, if you believe that, I believe the radiation burns and some of the other stuff. And like that one, you had one guy that got hit by radiation. God, my nose is itching. You had one guy that was hit by radiation, and it was a fair dose of it. He had radiation burns. He had problems with his joints, and he had to go get some stuff done by a doctor. I mean, he couldn't just wait for it to. He had to basically get some treatment for it. And what happened was, to me, it's pretty obvious that if they wanted to, they could have taken him out. The ability to end a life seemed to be well within their reach, and they weren't doing it. And so, you can make what you want out of that, but that kind of, it's like, obviously they don't mind the humans being there because they haven't wiped them out, and it really looks like they have the ability to do it. And so I don't know. But when he said that, it made me think of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy story, where they had a little talk about that. Well, anyways, I've seen Greer in interviews before. He went. You can go. Again, you don't have to take my word for it. You can go check it out on The Theory of Everything. He did an interview with that guy, and I'm gonna go wash my nose. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's either something allergic or dryness, but I'm gonna go rinse it off and see if it'll stop itching. Otherwise, it'll look like I'm picking my nose for the whole fucking stream. Okay. So when he was asked these questions, he's had other people, and the only other one I've seen have what I would, or have heard about or seen, would be Linda Moulton Howell. He was asking her questions, and she kind of lost her temper with him. And part of that is she's been doing this so long, and I think anymore she ends up, I don't know if sycophants is fair, but I think she basically gets either hired or interviewed or whatever by sycophants, and they don't question her. She could basically tell them, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I think she could honestly tell some of her followers that, and she wouldn't do this. She absolutely would not do this. But I think she could actually tell her followers that they needed to cut their testicles off and kill themselves in a field for a UFO. I mean, Heaven Gate shit. I think she could do it, and I think they would. She wouldn't. I absolutely don't. But she's used to that, where she goes out and says whatever, and people just scribble it down, or scratch their balls. Oh my God, she told us this, and blah blah blah. Well, you had a guy who was more intellectually honest than probably 99% of the people she deals with, and that's not her fault. That's absolutely not her fault. And she was getting pissed. But see, this is a guy that comes over from the academic side. He is not some born again UFO hunter that's been doing this for 20. This is a guy relatively new to it. He doesn't, and I don't mean this in a bad way. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you don't know something. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. That, and really, as a scientist, Neil deGrasse Tyson could really learn from this. As a scientist, that's what you should do. You should start out saying, I know nothing, and you should go from there. But instead of the mainstream academic elites doing it, we have people like Lou Elizondo. We have people like George Knapp, and I can't think of that. Documentary guy, Corbell. Can't remember his first name. Last name's Corbell, I think. I might be wrong. And people like Graham Hancock and Randall Carson, I think I got their names right. They have to do it, and then they're ridiculed for it. So I don't. Hang on one sec. I washed my whole fucking face. It might just be dry skin. Because if it's anything allergy related, that should have came off when I blew my nose. And it's up to them, and then they're being shit on. Well, the funny thing is, there's evidence for his stuff. For the stuff these people are saying. But when you talk about mainstream academia, there's evidence they have had to ignore. Because there's evidence that has come out where you can't really believe the mainstream view anymore on history, on archaeology, because there's evidence to come out. Well, what they do is, there used to be a book called Forbidden Archaeology, and they talk about all the evidence that didn't fit the mainstream narrative. And I think it was Lou Elizondo. Somebody was saying that we're basically making the same mistake that was made with Copernicus and others. They're not torturing people to death, getting them to recant, but they basically ruin their careers. To hide the truth, because there's people out there that do not want the truth to come out, regardless of what it is. And so I don't know. But with Dr. Greer, when he was on that Theory of Everything, by all means, go and watch. I think he only did one interview, but if he did more than one, you have to watch both, because I only watched one of them, and I don't know which one it was. As far as I know, there's only one. But if he did a second interview, I'm unaware of it. And I might have seen the first, I might have seen the second, if there's more than one. If there's just one, then that should be the one that I saw. Well, he was constantly asked, like, well, what about this and what about that? And like when you talk to George Knapp, when you talk to Corbell, other people, whether they've been on Joe Rogan, whether they've been on, Theory of Everything or whatever, if you ask these guys something, I've seen it where they will sit there and upload it off of their phone to the show. And then the show, like Joe Rogan, that happens all the time, where he'll either get his little studio guy to look it up on the internet, or they'll have brought it or whatever. They're more than happy to share that information. You know, they're more than happy. You know, like, hey, I got this. You know, or that, you know, if they don't have it on them, you take Dr. Friedman, I think he was a nuclear physicist, nuclear rocket scientist. Somebody said he existed before the internet. He was old school, and he used to walk around with, like, you know, not quite, but damn near the filing cabinet. He had all these, like, bags of information that he traveled around with. And so if somebody needed something, he'd be getting his bag out. He'd figure out which bag it was. He'd get out and he'd be rifling through papers so he could show it. Where now you can bring it up on your phone, or you can have a digital device with it on there. You know, you can carry a lot more than he ever used to. But he used to walk around with these fucking load of fucking papers and shit. And he would just be a fucking dick about it. He was never, oh, well, yeah, here, let me get that for you. He's like, oh, it's on my website. And for all I know, you got to pay to get on his website. He's, oh, it's on my website. You can just find it there. He couldn't be bothered to explain. And I got to tell you, and this is one of the things, like with Bob Lazar, it's one of the reasons why some people view him as credible, because it's been like 30 or 40 years now. Because I think he came out at the end of the, like, 88, 89. He came out end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, and now we're in the 20s. That's over 30 years. And he's pretty much had the same story. His story hasn't changed. And somebody made the comment that's what I was going to get. Okay. You take Dr. Greer, I think the reason why he doesn't want to answer that, and I could be wrong, this is just my opinion, but I think the reason why he doesn't want to answer these questions is because what he's telling you might not be true. And if he has to repeat it over and over again, he's going to have a day where he's just going to get it wrong. So he's purposely telling you, well, go here, it's written down. Cops do this a lot when they question somebody. They will ask them a question, then they might bring them back a month later. Same thing with witnesses. You know, if they're vetting a witness for whether they should use them and believe them, they'll ask them, and then they'll sometimes bring them in like a month or two later. And if the story changes, then it's probably not as reliable, potentially. And, you know, like with him, he doesn't want to fess up to anything. It's just, oh, it's on my website. You can go get it. And he's got an app, and, you know, it's not free. And again, I'm not trying to shit on anybody. You make that money, you know. I find, you know, again, my opinion, I find what people do on OnlyFans a little more decent than this. But he's got an app where you can pay him a monthly fee, and you were supposedly supposed to be able to summon up alien craft. And I don't know, but I've heard stories, and nobody wants to get sued because it's one of those things where you're probably not going to be able to prove it one way or another. So I'm not accusing anybody. I don't know, but it seems like they're talking about Dr. Greer, where I've heard stories that there's these apps. Again, they're not tagging it to anybody, but there's these apps that are supposed to summon UFOs on command. And it's been uncovered that at some of those big events that you're paying big money to go see, they've hired somebody to fly a plane and shoot flares or something out of the plane nearby. on cue so that people will think that those are the UFOs or something. And again, nobody's tagging it to him, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not him. That again, that's my opinion. But Lou Elizondo made a comment that when you do this, you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, so that if you feel you're being ripped off, you can't tell anybody about it because you'd be in breach. This is Donald Trump level bullshit. If that's really going on, and well, anyways, I've seen this guy in a couple different. He's got some movies out there, and again, I'm not gonna shit on him. Some of them you can watch on YouTube for free. I don't know if I'd recommend paying for them, but if you can watch them on YouTube, because there's some of them they're up there. It looks like they are legal to watch, and Amazon Prime has some of them in the past. They have Hulu has in the past. You can look around there. You might have access to them now, depending on your situation. And the so I don't know. I don't know, but uh, none of them seemed overly informative to me. And it's basically, and again, he's telling you what he's telling you, and this is hardly unusual for the UFO community to basically have witness statements with no corroboration. That is not unusual at all. And he makes these claims. I don't know if they're true or not. That he has briefed the government. I think he claims that he briefed some of Clinton's people. I haven't heard anybody, again, like there's a guy who actually worked for Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton gave him a job. He was White House counsel. And before I say this, I want to qualify. He was qualified for the job. It's not like, and again, I can't remember what he did. It's not like he gave some chick he was banging a job in the mailroom or something like that, or because I think he did that. There was somebody he gave a job to, or he was banging them after they got the job. I don't know, but this guy was qualified to the job, and I guess he told him. This guy said this. Again, I didn't hear it from Bill Clinton in an interview or anything. The Big Easy wasn't calling me to hang out or anything like that. We travel in two different circles, but this guy he hired, he said, yeah, he got me the job, and after I got it, and again, the guy was qualified. I don't want to be like, oh, well, he put somebody in there who didn't belong in there, and he's like, oh yeah, and this is what I need, a favor now, Donald Trump level shit. But he got the guy the job, and he said, there's only two things I want you to do for me. He goes, I wanna know what is in Area 51. Something along you either want to know if Roswell was real or what was in Area 51. And then the other thing was he wanted to know who killed Kennedy. Them were the only two things he said that Bill Clinton gave a shit about. And then he also, if I remember right, it was the same guy. He said that at a certain point, Bill Clinton was worried that they were going to, again, I'm just repeating what somebody said. I'm not even sure if it's the same guy because it was a while ago. But he basically said that Bill Clinton got worried that they were going to assassinate him like Kennedy. So he dropped it. True or not, I don't know. Believable? Yes, I find that to be believable. Especially after that whistleblower, David Groch, basically told Congress under oath. You lie to Congress under oath, you can go to jail for a year like Martha Stewart did. It's a real thing. And he basically said that yes, there were people that, basically people that told him that they were injured or people were killed to cover this up. He found it credible. And then but he said, he goes, I got to be careful talking about this When I got comments like this, he basically directed them to who they should be reporting it to law enforcement, because he's not law enforcement, and he would point them in the right direction. And so when you've got, we've got a history where Bill, like JFK was killed, and there's some credibility issues on who was responsible, what happened, that kind of thing. I don't think it's that far-fetched for a guy to think, yeah, they're going to kill me like Kennedy if I don't drop this. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but there was somebody that had said that the Clintons didn't really want to, at a certain point they were willing to drop it. I think it would have been cool if Hillary would have got in, because I think there's some indication that she was maybe going to take some action, and maybe that's why. Maybe there were people in the defense industry, maybe there were people inside the government that, you take the General Flynn, maybe the reason he did what he did wasn't so much that he was a corrupt piece of shit loyal to Putin or Trump. Maybe he was a corrupt piece of shit loyal to the military-industrial complex. And maybe there was a movement to help Trump get elected to keep Hillary from doing this. Because I think they knew from her as First Lady that if she got her mind set on something, she wasn't going to be dissuaded by people that worked for her. People who thought they were in charge of something when they were never elected to office. And so I don't know. But, he made the claim, that he advised, the Clinton White House on stuff. And the only thing I've gotten is I don't think it was somebody talking about it. I think it was the actual NASA astronaut. And I can't remember the guy's name. I believe he's dead now. But he basically said, someone was talking to him, and he basically said that, yeah, he worked with Dr. Greer, but there was something about him that just kind of put this guy off a little bit, where he didn't really want to associate with him too much after that. And it was one of the bigger brains at NASA. Not Shepard. He was a big name that I think you would hear about. I just can't think of the name off of the top, man. I don't want to get it wrong. I'd rather leave it out than get it wrong. And might be Pete Mitchell, but I'm not 100% sure. I couldn't think of the name, but it might have been Pete Mitchell. And so I don't know. I really don't know. I'm gonna go get some more shovels. On these ones here, I'm getting these from the zombie farm over here, and I try to save them. Like, I try to save all the stone stuff, especially the shit early in the game. I try to save it and then melt it down to get my my little bit of iron there from melting it down. And I just wasted that. But he did. He made those claims, and like in this interview, I got to bring it back up. My tablet went down from not being used. Okay, now he did all these, and I'm pretty sure these. I think if you look at them, unless somebody takes them down real quick, I think if you go look them up, they'll be there. And when you go watch his old interviews, stuff I've watched. Okay, now this is a guy that he's got an app where you can buy it. You can pay him so much a month, and they'll bring ET right to you. You can pay him a shitload of money, and you can go meet out in the field somewhere, and they will bring ET right to you. That, he's taking money for this. that tells me that he's trying to portray, whether he believes it or not, he's trying to portray this image that ET and aliens are a real thing. I would say that's a fair opinion to have. And he basically, he came out, and there was this guy that used to be on TV when I was a kid. It's up from Madison. Madison's the capital of my state, and TV Lenny, I think, was the guy's character name. He owned like an appliance store or whatever. Kind of like back then you didn't have a Best Buy, you didn't have a Target. Well, this guy, you went there and he basically had stereos and appliances, I think some furniture, but he basically the appliance store. And you didn't have these superstores that had everything. Like, you went in there, they didn't have music and movies for you. You went in there, they had like fucking killer shit for your fucking car stereo or your apartment, And like literally, we went there once after I was like over 18. I had some friends that were going up there. I rode along with them, and they were talking about they had something. They go and they basically I think it was a Rockford Fosgate speakers or something like that. Whatever it was the speakers or it was the EQ system. And they basically said that if Darth Vader had a sound system in his TIE fighter, this would have been it. And that's how they advertised. I thought it was pretty cool. When they're like, if Darth Vader had a sound system in his TIE fighter, this would be what he'd be pumping in there, And but this guy used to do these ads. There was at least a couple a year. They might have even been like a couple a month. I don't know. But he'd be like, oh my God, we're having a going out of business sale. Everything must go, 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 go. And people'd show up, and then he'd there's no going out of business. It's like, oh my God, I sold enough. I can stay open for another couple months I can basically stay open until the next going out of business sale. And but they used to have these like everything must go, 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 go. These commercials. Well, he did this one after Congress. This would be Senator Gillibrand's thing, where she was talking about she was gonna try and get a bill passed that would create an independent UFO department outside the military, outside of intelligence. And as soon as she started talking about that, the Pentagon was like, "Oh, you don't need to do that. We'll start investigating it for you." And that's where that UAP task force came from. And and again, you've had decades on this. You've had decades on this. You've fucked up. You can't really expect decent people to give you any credibility on it. You just can't. And well, this guy here, when they first started, when it really looked like there might be something done on disclosure, he didn't. It was an ad on YouTube. This was not a video. Somebody was paying for him to have this ad on YouTube because there was actual talk that there was going to be, something done. And he's like, oh yeah, they got this disclosure. We don't need disclosure. Everybody got disclosure when I came out and told you what's going on. We don't need this. So that was, again, I don't know, but to me, I suspect that was being bought and paid for by either some secret cabal in the government or the industrial military complex. That was because it sounded like those TV Lenny going out of business sales back from the 80s, when I was in high school and junior high. And it just didn't come off as credible. My brother might be home, I'm not sure. And I'll waste it on that one. But to me, that seemed like desperation. You know, like, because, and again, and just my opinion, my impression is I think he was absolutely worried because if they do a disclosure and what he's telling people isn't true, he's going to be out of business. And this was another thing that Lou Elizondo has said. He said, if everybody knew what I knew, he goes, there are people out there that would have to go into hiding because of the money they took from people for things that were a lie. And again, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I honestly don't know, but I wonder. And then when he goes on these interviews, you know, but again, he's given the impression that, yeah, aliens are real because he's selling you an app where you can like basically get ET to show up at your house or in the field when you pay him several $1,000s to show up in the field on a weekend or whatever. And so I don't know. I don't know. But that's what he's been doing. He's done a lot of it where he's talking like UFOs are real, aliens are real. You know, download his CE5 app and you can get ET to show up. You know, again, I don't remember anything in there where he goes, oh yeah, well this will summon the military. This will summon, you know, human-made. You know, there's none of that in this. Well, he did this interview, and it's Michael Sandler's Inspire Nation is the channel. That guy interviewed Stephen Greer. And maybe I got it wrong. I fully am willing to admit that maybe I got it wrong. You know, so again, don't believe me. Go watch it. Get your own opinion. But it's mass media is hiding this. The emergency countdown on UFOs, UAPs, and Congress. Dr. Stephen Greer. That is the title of it. And what happened was, if you, and this is why I said, remember when I talked about those amendments, remember it, because the one that Chuck Schumer is putting out, it's going to force all of this stuff that is non-human, whether it's a body, whether it's technology, whether it's a craft, it's going to force it to be turned over to the government. You know, so that's an important part of this puzzle, because everything clicked when I saw this interview, you know. And for me, and again, I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to make up your own mind, make up your own opinions on it. But this, to me, it just sort of clicked, and I am pretty sure that this guy is working for the government or the military-industrial complex or something. Because what he did was, he flat out said that everything you see in the air, everything you see, it's not aliens. It's all man-made. Well, then why have you been charging people for that CE5 app? I don't understand this. I'm a little confused. But he said it's all man. And again, maybe I'm wrong, but that's my recollection of it. And I'm just like, you got what? You know, I kind of rewound it and played it back. I'm like, wait a minute. You just said, I'm going to wait here until the sun goes down so I don't have to run all the way back. But he did. He said that everything people are seeing in the sky, whether it's Venezuela, America, Mexico, Spain, you know, all around the world, it's all man-made. Okay. When you talk to top scientists like Dr. Taylor and others, they will tell you that we do not have the capability of that. We didn't learn it. You know, even if they are man-made, we got it from somewhere else because we don't have that ability yet. You know. But that's what he said. And it doesn't match up with anything he said before. And then I saw another video, and I don't know if it was before or after that, but he was talking about aliens like they were real things again. But I think the one I'm talking about is the newest one. And here's the thing. This is my honest opinion on it. It sounds like what I'm getting for it sounds like there's bipartisan support to pass it in the Senate. That's coming from Ross Coulthard. He is pretty sure that the Senate is going to pass that bill, and that'll force any of this non-human technology, alien craft, biological stuff to be turned over, or it'll be seized. It's going to be like an eminent domain. They're going to just take it away from them. Well, then what would you do? If you were actually worried, and if Ross Coulthard from Australia, well-renowned journalist, if he's basically saying that his sources are telling him that it looks like it's a done deal from the Senate, you gotta think that the military or the military-industrial complex, they've got people that can do that too. You know, they've got connections in Congress that know how to fucking count to 51 or 60. They just do. So, you know, there were people, you know, there's got to be people. Again, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But these are people that are going to hedge their bets. You would send your fucking stooge out there to start telling people that everything out there is man-made. Because, see, if you can lie to people and convince them that this stuff is all man-made, well, see, then that doesn't fall into that eminent domain. They would get to keep this stuff. So, in my opinion, the snake oil salesman is, and again, this is my opinion, but I'm officially convinced, and it's going to take a stack of shit to fucking make me think otherwise. I'm officially convinced that this guy is working for somebody. You know, again, I'm convinced of this. I'm pretty sure that was what flipped the switch for me. Because he's up there going, oh yeah, none of this stuff is alien. It's all man-made. Everything you've seen, you know. Yeah, because he doesn't. There's somebody out there that's worried that if this goes in, there might be the political will to arrest people, throw them in jail, fucking seize this shit. And they don't want to give it up. Are you fucking high? And that fucking clicked. But I can't say that about Nolan. But again, we've seen this evidenced in other stuff at lower levels of government, like that one, Roger Moore did it, where it was a local police department. It wasn't state police, it wasn't the FBI, but it was a local police department that put somebody undercover into a book group. Because they were worried that, you know, the equivalent of the Jane Austen book club was going to overthrow the government. It was a small town. You know, there was a comedian, he was talking about the fucking South flipping out after 9/11, and he saw, you know, they were doing these interviews after 9/11, and there was some local fucking rube that was worried that, you know, well, 9/11, it could happen here, and it was down in Alabama. It was down in some southern shithole with probably like, you know, 4 people, you know, well, not 4, but, you know, like 100 people or a couple hundred people, and the guy was saying, well, yeah, you know, 9/11 could happen here, and the comedian goes, no, it can't. He goes, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna take out a bingo game? Or are they gonna take out a Walmart? He goes, the whole point of terrorism is to kill mass amounts of people. You're not in danger down south if you've got a couple thousand, or, you know, there's not enough people there. He goes, you know, if you want to be worried about terrorism, you have to build a civilization first. He goes, it's just not going to fucking happen down there. And, I might just leave this here. I might need time to think about it. I don't know if this is big enough as is, so I might reshape it and leave this here as a higher level. I'm not entirely sure. I got to think about it. But either way, I want to get these out of here. Now these are stone pickaxes. I haven't gotten any metal ones of them yet. But but that just kind of clicked for me. It's like, yeah, but again, they've done this before, where they will have people infiltrate a group as a co-conspirator or a like-minded ally. And the one thing, and I did a podcast on this, it was that guy who created, according to the story, it was on the Y Files, but it was the guy who created, I think, Thunder Scientific. They they reached out to that guy in a way, according to what they're saying, they reached out to him and made him think he was talking to aliens. The guy ended up in a fucking nut house after what they did to him. You go back, and I think it started earlier, but it really came to a head, I think, in the 80s, where the CIA was basically dosing people with LSD. And there are some that think that was the cause of the Mothman stories. These people were fucking high on LSD and that. And, in the UFO thing, you got to be careful with that, because some of these people that are doing it, they're doing these hallucinogenic drugs. Well, my understanding, I'm going to leave those because I might go down another level, but I got to take a look at this. I might just leave this here and ruminate on it on a... Yeah, I think I'm going to leave that as a two-layer. I will wait because I'm going to shape it. I'm not going to leave it looking like this. But I don't know what I'm going to put up here, but I'm going to put something up here, but I want it as a second level. I'll reshape it a little bit. But that just blew me away. It really, really did blow me away on that. It's like, okay, that don't look too good. And and then the other thing is, I'm gonna take credit for the one, and it's a little bit on the verge of politics, but again, on a certain level, I don't consider the truth, I don't consider facts political. And this morning, Joe, the one day, he was talking about, and this is what got me, because we may this week, and by the time this gets posted, it'll probably be after it. So I really don't know. I'm not going to make any predictions, because in the past, you could always say, well, good people would not let this happen. I don't know if there are that many good people on the Republican side. There's people that have come out in the last couple weeks that they wanted to stand up to Trump, but they were afraid of what would happen to them or their families. Senator Mitt Romney was telling that because I guess he was spending $5,000 a day to protect his family from the nut jobs on the right, added security. And there were a lot of people that did not have the money, I guess, to do that. And so I don't know. I really don't know. I think I am gonna do that. I'll. I ain't gonna dig it until I'm sure, but I just kind of thought of that today. I think I'm gonna put the stairs up over here, and then I'll put that road right in through there, and then I can move these guys over. I'll do that off stream, and I might not do it for a while. I might change my mind, but oh, these guys are going to bed, so let's get over here. But yeah, that really blew me away. But well, anyways, they were talking about this shutdown, and I'm not making this up. I really wish I was, because and I gotta admit, I don't view him as a dishonest guy, but I think like everybody, he's got a fucking blind spot, especially where he's involved. And but he made this comment that, when he was in office, because he was a congressman from Florida, he came in with the Newt Gingrich revolution. You can ask your grandparents about that if you're younger. He he came in and they pulled the game where, the president gave them a proposed budget. That's the way this works. The president usually, now they don't have to, but they basically submit a proposed budget of what they need to run the executive. They give it to them for intelligence, the Department of Justice, the military. Like each department proposes their own, and then they put it together and then they send it over. Now, Congress could just rubber stamp it, vote on it, and send it back, and it would be immediately signed. Well, what they did was he sent them the proposed budget, and they didn't like it. So what they did was they gave him their own proposed budget. And it was just ridiculous. It was gonna cut stuff that Democrats wanted, and it was gonna fund all these things Republicans wanted that I think if you're honest, they're either bad or they're not. They're either bad or they're a waste of money. Like there was, I can't remember who was in office, but there was some Republican that wanted money down south to create a Noah's Ark theme park or something like that as a historical museum, and he wanted government money to fund. I might be wrong on this because I don't think he got it, but I think that they wanted it. And it would have been government money to create a historical museum that basically was showing the Flintstones. They were going to show real life humans riding on dinosaurs like they did in the Flintstones. Well, it's just not true. It's a fucking lie, and your tax dollars shouldn't fund it. There were Republicans in Alaska. They wanted it's literally, I think it was either the bridge to nowhere or the road to nowhere. They wanted the rights, they wanted money to fund, billions of dollars for some kind of a road project, and there was nobody. It's in the middle of fucking Alaska. It's not like it's going to be a tourist thing, but they wanted this road built, and it went from nowhere to nowhere. And but they just wanted the money for Alaska. Well, that was something I don't. They might have got that. I don't remember, but that was money they wanted to spend. At one point. Well, Bill Clinton basically said, "No, this is a ridiculous budget. It's not good. It's not going to cut spending. It's not going to help working people out." So he goes, "I'm not signing it." He goes, "You guys send me a bill that works." And the Republicans refused, and they got blamed. Not Bill Clinton, not the Democrats. The Republicans got blamed for shutting the government down. This was back in the 90s. And, he was on his show the one day, and he was just making a thing. Oh, yeah, And he admitted, he goes, "Yeah, when we shut the government down," he goes, we didn't come out well on that. He goes, that did not look good for us. He admitted that. And then the very next thing out of his mouth was this claim, which nobody credible, I think, believes. And I found a Newsweek article where they were basically saying, Republicans got to stop with this view that, but he did. He goes, "Well, we balanced the budget for 4 years, when we were in Congress." And I tweeted out to him on Threads, and I go, "Yeah, Joe's not bad, but I go, he seems to be having a little bit of a memory block here." I go, "Bill Clinton was the one that balanced the budget." And I go, he had to let the government shut down until the Republicans would give him the budget he wanted. And I go, maybe we should quit lying about this and get the facts on this for the people like me who watch your show. Well, then it was either the next day or it was another day. It was within a week, I believe. I might be wrong. Well, he did it again. He's like bragging up how they, balanced the budget for 4 years and blah, blah, blah. And hi there, Patches. I love you very much. What time is it? Oh, let me finish my story. It's after 4 o'clock. I need to get her supper. Yeah, you be a good girl. You come on up. Say hi to everybody. Yeah, you say hi to everybody. And, But he did it again, and I got on there and I said, look, he did this the other day, whenever it was. I was a little more aware of it back then, like a week ago or whatever. And I go, he did this before, and I go, he did it again. I go, here are the facts. And I put up there, I go, Joe Rogan or Joe Scarborough. We shut the government down, and it did not look good for us. I go, also Joe Scarborough. We balanced the budget for 4 years, and I'm like, well, if you guys balanced the budget and you did it in a reasonable and realistic way, then why did the government shut down? I go, that's the question you got to answer. If they were just creating the best budget since sliced bread, why did the government have to go down? Bill Clinton would have signed that. I go, here's the reality. I go, facts and reality and history basically tell us that the last Republican president who balanced a federal budget was Eisenhower. The 50s. That's a fact. That's not something that we can agree to disagree on. That's not something we can just sort of let it go and we'll just move on. That is a fact. That's not political. That's a fact. The last Republican president to balance the federal budget was Eisenhower. The top tax rate was 90%. That's how he could afford to do it. He also built an interstate highway system, which didn't exist. And I believe he's the one that got it. So there were gas stations every so many miles on that interstate highway system. Because it used to be, you know, going like from state to state was a little more of an ordeal than what it is now. And they need to do something like that for electric cars. They basically need to set up spots where you can recharge your car quickly. Because right now for electric cars, it's kind of like the old days of Route 66 and all that, where if you're going to take your electric car and you actually want to use your electric car, you don't want to use a hybrid where you're using gas, you got to plan it out, because there's a lot of places you can't charge your car. And the cars only go so many miles on a charge. And so anyways, I go, that's a fact. You know, the last president who balanced one was Eisenhower. And I go, another thing. I go, most, if not all, of your Republican governors only balance their state budgets because they're getting money from the blue states. Again, that's a fact. That is not something we can argue about. That's not an opinion. That's not a theory. It's not a conspiracy. That is a fucking fact. Most or all Republican governors only balance their budget because of money from the very successful blue states. That governor of California, somebody was, I don't remember what show he was on, but I saw the clip on YouTube. Somebody was asking him about California's budget, and he goes, well, what are we supposed to do? He goes, you want me to basically take Alabama or Tennessee's? He goes, they're failed economies. He goes, the only reason those states haven't gone bankrupt is because they're giving money from my state, California, to keep them afloat. He goes, this is a joke. He goes, yes, California's got problems, but he goes, I don't want anybody on the right telling me that I need to basically do some stuff with my economy because their economies are so much worse. He goes, our economy's in bad shape because, he goes, we've got expenses. We've got highways, we've got an industry, we've got, infrastructure. He goes, most of these states you're talking about that you think are so great, he goes, one, they're not so great. They're only great because they're taking blue money from successful blue states. But he goes, most of them don't even have a lot of paved roads. He goes, they don't have to protect people with the police like we do. They don't have companies that people want to steal from. But, it's just rural time. I mean, he went to town on it. And, but I go, so that's the fact of it. Bill Clinton sent them a budget. And I go, if they would have just rubber stamped it and sent it back, I go, everything would have been good. But I go, they didn't do that. I go, they absolutely didn't do it. They sent him a stupid budget. He shut the government down. He said, fine, the government will go down until you send me a budget I can pass. And I go, that is why I put in the Newsweek article where they basically said, yeah, this is, this lie that the Republicans tell about how they balanced a budget is not true. And here's the facts to prove it. And then it was a couple days later, I saw where he got on there again and he was talking because I made the comment. I go, look, I'm pretty sure I've seen this on Joe's show that when you've got people that'll lie about the little things, they will lie about the big things. And I go, that's the thing. He's lying about this. I totally get that he's lying about this. I go, I don't understand why he is, but he is. Well, then he was on again. I think it might have been the next day, and he talked about the government shutting down. He didn't say a damn thing about this mythology of the Republican balanced budget anymore. That was gone. Well, the other thing, and this is where I'm going to end it, I was watching, I normally don't watch it every week. I had something on, I was watching it after that went over. Either that or I had it on an unusual time, like as a repeat. But that Jen Psaki show, and I like it. I'm not going to say it's as good as Rachel Maddow, but it's pretty good. I like it. Well, she was on there, and she brought this guy, Seltzer. He got fired from CNN. I'm not entirely sure of the story on it. But they were on, and they were talking about the Republican debates. And he shit on the UFO subject. And he said, well, yeah, he goes, I don't know if they're going to have a real debate or if they're going to start talking about UFO guns. And she didn't push back on it. And I would really like to see if this maybe has an effect. Because I think I had an effect on Ari Melber's show. Because it was like Joe Scarborough. I had to do it twice. And then it seemed like they kind of took it a little more seriously. But I reached out to her and I said, look, I'm watching your show, and I go, on the issue of UFOs, I really think it's important that every credible news source, yours and others, needs to stop letting people crap on this issue. I go, we've got it where it's coming out of Congress where they want to stop the stigmatization of this subject so that military pilots and civilian pilots, law enforcement will come forward and tell people what they have seen. So I go, when you've got your newscast, I think it's important that you stop. And if somebody comes on, either quit having them on, or when somebody comes on and smears that, set them straight. Because I go, here's the thing. I go, we had a whistleblower. I go, he just testified before Congress under oath. And I go, before that, he testified to an inspector general. Gave him all the information. I go, that inspector general investigated. He's got a very high security clearance. He investigated it. And I go, he did not tell Congress this guy's nuts. This guy's a joke. I go, he told Congress that this guy was credible and that what he was talking about was urgent. So they brought him in. He's met with them secretly in classified briefings. He's met with them publicly. And I go, in that public briefing, he said that there was money that had been appropriated for Project A that was being stolen and used for an unknown project. I go, this is Iran-Contra level crimes here. I go, and the thing is with Iran-Contra, I go, we at least know what they spent it on. We don't even know what they spent this on. I go, you've got a member of Congress who said that the Pentagon fails every budget they've ever gotten by like $1 billion or more. I go, there is something real here. I go, now whether it's going to be UFOs or whether it's going to be corruption and espionage and fucking embezzlement, I don't know. But I go, there's something there. And I go, you could maybe, if you're going to have these people on and they're going to say shit like that, maybe you could just push back and say, look, we really don't know. But the UFO is a serious topic. It is well within anybody's right to be asking candidates, especially for the highest office, how they feel about it. I think that is an important issue. And again, if they're crazy, they're crazy. But I think we have a right to get an answer. So we'll see if anything happens there. Ari Melbourne, this is where I'm going to leave it. He used to do this where he would have Neil deGrasse Tyson on there. And I had to do the same thing I did with Joe Scarborough. But again, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't me. Maybe, I don't care who it was. But, he quit having him on. He quit talking about the UFO subject. And that's fair enough. If you're not going to cover it right, don't cover it. But I go, you're a journalist. Or at least you're pretending to be one. I go, you should be neutral. You should be presenting the facts. And I go, Neil deGrasse Tyson has no credibility on this subject. I go, he does not research this stuff. He has not done the work. I always had a math teacher. I hated because she always wanted to see your work. And I go, back then I didn't need it. But I go, I can see why she wanted to do that, because Neil deGrasse Tyson can't show his work because he hasn't done any on this. I go, he is not some theoretical propulsion expert. He's an astronomer. That's what he's best known for. I go, if you want to bring him on to work out the physics of interplanetary objects, the moon, the stars, what's going on, I go, that's his field of expertise. But I go, as far as what people are seeing and what's being reported by the military and other, go, he's got no expertise in there and shouldn't be given any credibility on this. I go, he really shouldn't. And I go, it's really, and again, the second time I did it, he hasn't talked about UFOs. He has not had Neil deGrasse Tyson back on. Because that's the thing. We got to stop where we stop doing this hero worship for people who really don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what we're going to find. I really don't. We may find out the whole UFO thing is a hoax being used by people connected to the military so they can fucking loot and steal money and put it in their pocket. That's absolutely a realistic thing there. Maybe we're going to find out that fucking E.T., a couple 100,000 years ago, had friends on this planet that got wiped out by a disaster, and they've been trying to recreate us. And again, I'm not saying this is what it's based on, but that's like a thing when you watch Stargate SG-1. That's a theme in there where there used to be a race like us that got wiped out. They're gone. And we're like the second coming of that race, which is what made us friends with like the Asgards. They saw some potential in us, and we're hoping that we would get to be like the ancients. And so I don't know, but it's just the people out there that have these areas of respect and that really need to start taking this seriously. Well, I'm going to let everybody go. I hope you have a good day. This turned out to be a pretty good day. I got to go feed the cat. You can see she really wants to get going. If you're watching this on YouTube, spank the ass of that like button, maybe hit that subscribe button, and check me out on YouTube or check me out on Twitter. Thank you very much, and I hope everybody has a good day.